This video is brought to you by Scopic.com. Get yours now.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Phil from Indicator.com, and so we're going to take a look at Sony Xperia C5 Ultra. Now, that's a very long name. C5 means that it's in a mid-range division of Sony Xperias, and Ultra means that it's Ultra. It's pretty big, it's at 6 inches, but thanks to that slim bezels, it's not as enormous as you would expect a 6-inch phone would be. So as you can see here, the biggest characteristic of the C5 Ultra is of course its thin bezels. Covered by the metal chassis, it's maintaining real thin bezel around there. 4 corners are there to protect it against those drops and hits and nicks whatsoever. And even compared to the phones with one of the slimmest bezels, you can see that it's gaining a real thin bezel there. If you're wondering about the size, here is an Xperia Z3, which is just about a generic phone. It's a 5.2 inches. You can see that it's big, but not as big as a 6-inch should be. So that brings us to 2 things that we like and 5 things that we hate. Why so many hates when the phone looks this beautiful? Let's find out. Firstly, the thing that I love the most about the C5 Ultra is of course its display. Those almost nearly inexistent bezels, and plus this full HD display is definitely a pleasure to look at. You can see that it's filling almost entirely of the phone, ranging at 76% of the screen to body ratio. And this 1080p display itself is definitely well saturated and bright at the same time, although not as bright as one of the latest phones like the Galaxy S7. The colors are very vivid. There's a red, green, blue, white, and those tones are really well done. There's probably nothing that I want to complain about the display. If you think the phone is too big, here's a one-handed operation where you can shrink the size of the display by bringing some borders around it. And you can even bring up the notification bar by tapping on the home key fastly twice. But interestingly enough, when you capture the shrinked display, it's going to capture as it looks on the eyes. And the second thing that I like is that it's a dual SIM capable device with the micro SD card separated. Now a lot of phones incorporate the micro SD card slot along with the number 2, the secondary SIM card slot. They share them. So you can't have 2 SIM cards and micro SD card slot installed at the same time, but this guy is capable of doing that, which is probably so because the phone is so big. That's about all the things that we like about this phone. Now to the part of the hate. Firstly, it's related to the touchscreen. Now, the display itself is really big and really nice, but the touchscreen isn't so great. When you try to type so fast, the touchscreen is way too sensitive, so when you do that, it actually makes a line between it, denoting that it's recognizing your touches as a connected dot. So when you are typing quickly, it's going to jump here to there all around the place. This is a problem often found in a lot of Sony devices, and this is no exception. And you cannot guarantee, this is a problem, you cannot guarantee that all C5 Ultra is going to be the same, because there were some problems with the Z3 or the Z3 Compact with these kind of problems, but I personally have a Z3 and that was fine with it. So that's a little quality control. And this seems to be a problem that could be easily fixed by giving some sensitivity option, but Sony is deliberately deciding not to. And while I'm a real big fan of this dedicated 2-step shutter key, the camera quality isn't so good, which you shouldn't be asking too much about a $240 phone. But as a Sony device always is, this takes pretty noisy photo, especially on a darker environment. Having a big selfie camera and a front-facing flash is definitely great, but I would have appreciated a little bit more if it had a better camera quality with the rear camera. And thirdly, call quality is simply terrible. This is a problem that is often found in other Sony devices like the Z3, although it's better than the predecessor, but the call quality of the C5 Ultra is nearly impossible. It's really hard to talk with it. The other party would not be able to hear you clearly, and neither can you. And on top of that, the device itself is too big. The proximity sensor often misbehaves. It thinks that you are away from your phone when your phone is right next to your ears. And with that, you might be thinking that the front-facing speaker should be good because it's got a pair of them, but no, not really. The speaker have a terrible bass, they squeak, they are definitely a pain to be hearing to. The next problem is the CPU performance. It's got a MediaTek processor. It's an octa-core processor with a reasonably good performances. It's doing an okay job at heat management. You don't really feel a lot of heat unless you are taking photo. But it seems like CPU gets really throttled a lot. You'll be constantly seeing some lags here and there. Don't get fooled by Sony's stockish interface. It doesn't mean that it's very light. It means it's got a clean design, but performance-wise, it's not exactly something that you should be counting on. This shouldn't be a problem for everyone, but I use SMS backup and restore when reviewing a new device. And this guy, along with other Sony devices with the MediaTek processor, has a really slow recovery speed. And plus, it doesn't have the 5 GHz Wi-Fi, so if you were counting on using that gigabit Wi-Fi, no luck on here. And to make things worse, now this is the last one, the battery is definitely horrible. The battery lasts only about 3 hours to 3 hours and 20 minutes or so, and it definitely is a short time considering it's got a 2930 milliamps of battery and only a full HD resolution. Then does it even charge fast? Not really. It comes with the 850 milliamps of battery charger, and that takes 3.5 hours to fully charge this guy. Even if you use a higher amp, higher output charger, it's not going to get any faster, so you should have a lot of time if you want to chop up this guy. So that is a very basic, very short basics about the Xperia C5 Ultra. I counted a lot. It's a metal chassis, a reasonable price, good selfie camera, and a large battery. That seemed like a promise that I could be relying on, but not really. This guy just proved it to be just another Sony device. It's laggy, unlike the way it looks with its skin. The battery is really short, just like any other Xperia other than their flagship, and the system was unstable with a lot of throttling going on. Sony seems to be struggling with its mobile phone business, and this has been just another example of why they're failing so much. Based on the Amazon prices, it seems like they are luring new customers to the C5 Ultra with those fancy new prices. But usually, if there's a price cut, there's a reason, and the reason here is because the device is definitely not something that you will want for your daily driver. I was hoping to find a new hope for Sony devices because I was such a big fan, but not really. Sony is going to stay there, and it seems like they're going to continue to fail in their mobile division. Thank you always for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I'll try my best to answer. And you can meet us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. We'll see you guys later.